Me breathe in. Okay. 1, 2, 3. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Journey Inward, and we're going to discuss some fun stuff, consciousness, spirituality, all the cool stuff in life. And today I have a very special guest, Niles Ackerman, new to Steemit, but not to the world at large. So thank you so much for joining me today, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, honored and grateful.
Awesome, man. So I know we got to chat a little bit offline, but we've never had a full-on conversation. So tell me kind of a little bit about your background and how you progressed to this. I got to, full-on disclosure, I got to see a lot of Niles stuff off of Steam. But if you haven't checked him out, tell us a little bit about how you kind of got involved with spirituality, consciousness, and where you are today.
Yeah, right on. The past couple of years have been a wild ride of awakening and integration and all of this. I would say that overarchingly, I came from a very conditioned, a state of really identifying with many of my thoughts, and I thought that's who I was, and a very materialist-based consciousness. And I had a very traditional upbringing. I went through middle school and high school and college with much of the conditioning that I would imagine many grow up in today. And I sort of had, I felt that I was slightly different in many ways throughout I guess I started to pay attention and really feel these feelings when I was going through the middle stages of high school and into the latter stages of that. I had always been really into sports, being in touch with exercise, like connecting up with my body in that way. And so I had this just the traditional conditioned upbringing of like you're going wild in high school and wild through the first years of college and things.
Sure.
But I was always known, at least to my friends and those who interacted with me, as sort of the quieter kid, really more introverted, and I didn't necessarily know why until sort of recently, where I guess I've made sense of it now, where I sort of had this inner yearning where I wanted to the conversations that I wanted to engage in were more of a heartfelt conversation, like something that was aimed at truth or something like this, like discovering something within yourself. And so this plagued me for a while in that through the latter stages of high school and into like the first 3 years into college, I had a pretty big mental hole of being I was very anxious all the time, specifically with social anxiety and social situations. It would put me instantly into a fight or flight response. Like I was in many situations, not all, but many, just very scared because I was identifying with the thought that, what is he going to think of me? What is this person like? If I do this,
Okay.
am I something strange, that I don't fit in or whatever it is?
Okay. So this
And
one all the way through the first few years of college, you would kind of run into social anxiety in the form of your thoughts would be kind of torturous.
Yeah, and I've sort of dove into it pretty deep to really understand where the root of that has come from. It does come from my family, whether that be sort of an epigenetic predisposition it was ingrained in my genome and inevitably came out that way. I think it was a combination of many factors, also including environmental upbringing, like what my family situation was like. I do have a family history of that type of thing, that type of mental illness. And so I started to, because of these weird feelings that I had, not understanding why I wasn't necessarily fitting in, eventually it just started to build up, and I was like, really, okay, I need to turn somewhere. Like I can't keep going on this way. And out of that sort of rut, I found the practice of meditation.
Okay.
So this was like the light for me. And so I just started with a simple 10-minute a day app. Andy Rooney made this app called Headspace. And there's a really simple way that I started. just in my dorm every day for 10 minutes for 10 days. I would just do this simple guided meditation. And that was sort of my door in which the light panned through, and I was like, huh, maybe there is something to this. I'm beginning to
Okay.
watch thoughts. So I've never watched a thought before, so that was a big revelation for me.
Right. No, yeah. So
Here, yes.
no, yes. Let me unpack what you said. So like, um, basically, you went through school as most of us did, very socially, like trying to get our bounds, get our feet under us, and figure out opposite sex and friends and everything that's going on ourselves. And then, but you always felt kind of that you didn't fit in, and then that just grew with your thoughts kind of attacking in that you're never going to fit in, why you're not fitting in, or what do they think of me, blah, 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 until it forced you to look at something, and it looked at meditation. And then, is that right?
Yeah. And so with all of this, like, chaos sort of happening in my head, put me in a deep state of like sorrow for many, many days. But from that, I like to think of it as like this wound, or this mental wound scar that was in there has now grown into sort of a womb for greater growth. And then it, like, sort of like you could draw the metaphor as like digging a hole to plant a plant, and then the plant grows from without the hole.
Love it.
In the hole. Yeah. And so after graduating college, I had been about a year into the path of discovering, whoa, there's universal principles out there. And what I'm being taught by the system that I had been sort of indoctrinated into isn't necessarily all true. Like, wait a minute, let me use my own discernment and sort of regain a path of my own sovereignty. And so having learned, or not necessarily fully learned, but been exposed to all of these different principles, my mind was just really blown. And so I graduated with a business degree, but I mean, since the time of picking that major to the end of college, my intentions had shifted. And so I decided the best thing that I could do was to just immerse myself in the field of pure potentiality as much as I could. And so I bought this little tiny home.
Okay.
It's this little camper on wheels that I've been towing around with me. And so my intention with that is I wanted to reduce all of the material goods that I had in my life. And so what I owned, I was really I had an affection for. It means something to me. There is not so much extraneous like props in my life, so to speak. And so I guess I was watching this too as like a physical manifestation of the realizations and the energetic shifts that were going on within me. And then they were sort of coalescing onto the physical plane in the form of this little house that I'm now living in, and keeping things simple, and now being in much closer coordination with nature.
Right, close to the earth, yeah.
Yeah. And so in an intention to explore these universal principles, I hear you talk about law of attraction all the time.
Sure.
I just wanted to see if it works, essentially. So in this field of just potential, I've been living in this little home, and I first went to Acadia National Park in Maine for a summer while I was working at a bike shop. I love bikes. I wanted to pursue something I love. Was also working with Friends of Acadia, like restoring some of the trails up there. And I had this like realization when I'm shoveling rocks onto a trail where it's not necessarily something that is valued in our society as something very intellectual or successful or something like that. But more valuable to me was a feeling inside that I was contributing to something that was helping people to enjoy nature. And there struck within me the importance of doing something that I was aligned with, and like sort of something that my heart believed in, something that I could feel that my heart was in alignment doing the right thing. And so having spent 3 or 4 months in Acadia National Park in Maine, I decided to drive across the country. So with a link or a connection that I had made in Maine, I was able to go to the Santa Cruz area. in which I spent another 3 or 4 months sort of exploring and trying to really manifest my intention.
Okay, hold on. So there's
Yeah,
so much. There's so much. Um, so this process from just starting with a seed of meditation showed you then that you are not your thoughts, and you began to watch them. And then from there, it sounds like, and if correct me if I'm wrong, but the anxiety started to erode, and you started to listen more to your heart instead of those thoughts. And then that kind of manifested into this um, understanding that maybe those thoughts were put in there by someone else, like you said, indoctrination by our society and the society at large. I'm very passionate about education. It's another whole subject. But so you realize that maybe these thoughts aren't you, and then where are they coming from? And then from there, you're following your heart, and it led you to not just a tiny house and letting go of things, but communing with nature and having kind of a passion for helping others commune with nature. Is that about right?
yeah, absolutely. You make the path of awakening there sound really easy. I would assure you it wasn't that easy, but
I know. Trust me, I do. It's
yeah,
summarizing. I'm
yeah,
summarizing here. Yes.
right on. Yeah, so I toured it across the country. I will also say too that meditation, yes, was the seed, and it also led to so many different other modalities for me that have like contributed their own little bit to my sort of integrity and how I carry myself. Whether that be the Wim Hof method, jumping into flotation tanks, fasting, just eating the
Okay.
correct diet, just so,
Sure.
like using binaural beats for meditation,
Sure.
so many different things. But yeah, each contributed their little piece, and I do use like each one their element for like different ways to help boost myself and keep myself in that high vibration.
Interesting. So you use the modalities for each one has like a different. Um, it's not the right word I want to use. I was going to say fix, but um, each one kind of gets you something. Like if you're working on, say, scarcity, this modality might work. If you're working on something else, this might work. And okay, so that's interesting. I'm never come at it from that point of view. I've always been like, whichever modality resonates with me or whichever one I'm inspired to have. They're all like tools in the toolbox.
Right on, yeah.
But yeah, no, that's super cool, man. And so you've been gathering these modalities to keep you on a high vibration. So tell everybody on the show what high vibration means to you.
What high vibration means to me is what all of these are pointing at, and that is to reside with your awareness in your heart and be aligned within your heart and sort of radiate the highest vibration of love into the universe via you being that love, you embodying that energy. To me, to me, love and high vibration are sort of synonymous in that way. And yeah, that is, I could say that that's like the aim of my life, is just to be as much of that as I possibly can and be the biggest positive contribution that I can.
Okay, so now when you're on these high vibrations and you're feeling like unconditional love, an extreme amount of love, then what? Like, where does for you at Niles? How does it point you? Where does it point you? And kind of what happens to you?
Yeah, so that is where I draw. For me, I feel like I have to feel good so I can do good. It works
Nice.
like that for me. So when I'm feeling this way, this is when I'm feeling inspired and motivated to create things and to like recreate my reality in my life experience into something that is more beneficial for me and also more beneficial for others. And so going back to when I'm in California here, maybe like 5 months or so into my journey,
Mm-hmm.
um, so following the intention, I'm beginning to do a work trade with a yoga studio down there. And this is where I'm sort of opened up and by way of experience to just like synchronicities and all these people who are over here.
In
Who
Santa
are
Cruz, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's sort of like a spiritual epicenter in that there's a lot of open-minded and like spiritual people over there. And so over there, I'm introduced to like sound baths and to a community who is in resonance with this type of thinking. Um,
So
and
I feel the same way about San Diego, but I know Santa Cruz is that way too. And I always think that like people that are near the ocean naturally like have that vibration coming at them. But anyway, yeah, continue. So yeah, continue.
yeah, and so yeah, again, attention. I'm sitting at a yoga like a workshop one day that this yoga studio that I'm working with is putting on. It's a November 11th event. So it's some numerology synchronicity going on there. And I meet a wonderful girl, and we have been traveling together now. And she is also like, I met her via like she was teaching a meditation ascension channeling workshop, which is all new to at the time. So it's really an explosion of just wow. There's so much more going on out there, you know.
Wait, hold on. So what is for our listeners? I know what it is. Maybe I should stop and saying back because I'm super fascinated with channeling, especially lately, for some reason. So, what does channeling mean to when you use the word?
Yeah, it's I think the way that it comes through different people is it's different for everybody, I think, but for me, when I feel like I have tapped into that sort of thing, I think it also is easy to get lost in the word channeling. Sort of it's like a woo-woo word, kind of like, where does that come from, you know? But essentially, it's coming from your heart. And when I really tune into my heart, I'm able to just have things arise. And I think it's that simple. It's just whatever comes to you through like the divinity of your heart, and you end up speaking that. That would be what that is. And it's sort of when you're doing that, you're in a very deep meditative state, and allowing things that are for your highest and greatest good to come through.
Wow, that's powerful. I love that. The highest and greatest good. So for me, it's not. I love that the highest and greatest good coming through you when you're in that meditative state. But like, there's the channels where kind of something else takes over. You know what I'm saying? Like your Abraham Hicks or your Bashar or whatever. And then there's for the rest of it, or for some of us, for me, like when I write, I channel because I turn off. I feel like I don't have any control over it. It's just this is what's coming out of me, and this is the outlet it decides to come out. And so then maybe I edit it a little bit, but yeah. So I feel like channeling is anybody who gets in that flow state, right? That state of the stuff coming through you, that inspiration, that creative, just outpouring of like the non-physical coming into the physical. That's how I feel like channeling.
Right. Yeah, I think it could be as simple as that, and it definitely is. I think easy to get lost in just like the ambiguity of that word. But yeah, I think it's very simple at heart. Yeah, and so I'm in California, then I discover this thing called woofing. For anybody out there looking to sort of liberate their mind, body, spirit, and like sort of create a new reality for themselves, I have found this woofing thing to be a very useful tool.
Tell us about it. What is woofing?
Woofing. So it's a program. It's an online platform, and it's a program that allows you to get involved with organic farms across the country, or actually internationally as well. And so you do a work trade on the farm while you're learning all of these principles of nature, essentially, and working in close coordination with your food, which is another amazing thing that has come to me that's been really amazing to discover. Yeah, so it's an online platform that connects you with farmers all over. I'm
writing this down. Hold on. Woofing.
It's spelled WWOOF.
WWOOF. ing.com or what?
I don't believe there's an ing in there. It's just WWOF. Yeah.
Oh. .com. All right. And yeah, I'll research that and we'll flash it across the screen here, Joe.
Cool.
All Right. So it's you are community. It's a community of people online that are farmers with an open um, invitation to come farm with them. Then.
Right. And so it's sort of there's a loose agreement going on there. So it's not like cut and dry for each one. Each farm is definitely different. Um, so
Okay.
I've been to 6 or so different ones now, over the past probably 6 or 7 months or so. So the first one was a little eco village that I moved into just like 2 miles south of Santa Cruz in California.
Okay.
Um, and I was there for a while exploring different principles. That was a community setting, so there was a lot to learn there, as well as I was sort of involved with sustaining their garden that they had for the community members.
Okay.
And so having spent a couple months there, decided to hit the road again and rendezvous with some friends in Colorado, right near Denver. I'm in Golden, Colorado right now.
Okay.
I've been for the past couple of months. But the road to get from California to where I am now in Golden was quite an adventurous one. And I would draw some parallels to the functioning of the law of attraction in my broadcast of my intention of drawing in the experiences that were in my highest and greatest good so that I could serve others in the best way that I could.
Whoa. Okay. Hold on. Hold on. Step back. You're giving us a lot here. So when you say, so you put out an intention to, if I'm hearing you right, and correct me if I'm wrong, you put out an intention to be in that state of kind of love and high frequency, high vibration as much as possible, and to be around people who also are in that state, and to learn how to cultivate that, and basically use these powers of the universe as best as possible, right? And so the law of attraction brought you not only the tiny house and a way to do that, but all these different communities. And it sounds like you, through meeting other people and living these experiences, you've grown massively.
Absolutely. Each little experience, there's always something that's different. And so, yeah, after leaving California, we had spent a couple of days in the desert, and the big thing there is living outside, whether it be in a van or in a little home like I have, you're really in tune with the cycle of the sun and the moon, which I really enjoyed.
Interesting.
Yeah, you're going to bed with the sun and you're rising with the sun as well, which for some people can set your circadian rhythm very nicely, and you gain a high level of energy from that, which is certainly something that happened to me. And also just like the amazement and the sensation of awe from the sun going down and the moon coming up, and you're just sitting in this vast expanse of earth, in the middle of the desert. Like, a lot of time spent out there is like, it's definitely an experience, and there's definitely a lot to learn there. Yeah, at least I certainly got a lot of benefit from that. And so I believe our first stop was a farm in Cannonville, Utah. And this is, it felt like a gift from the universe, because we are in sort of the center of like Mormon religion territory in like southern Utah there. And we pull up next to this town of like 150 people. They have to drive an hour and a half to go get their groceries. But these people who were in this little town were amazing, that we were connected with via the WOOF program there. They had an amazing story in that they had grown up completely indoctrinated into the Mormon religion.
Mormon church, sure.
They actually lived right next to the Mormon church. And in the past 10 years, they woke up and they stepped into their own sovereignty. It was truly amazing to hear how they triumphed their fear, in that they're living right next to the church and their whole town of 150 people was very connected. But they just left it completely. And this guy who is living there now, his name's Marshall, and he used to be, you'd never know now, he used to be this 300-pound guy, like totally indoctrinated and in fear in this religion, and he is now like 150 pounds, 6 feet tall, and like an awesome dude. And so the projects that these two husband and wife are working on, they're creating a biodome where it's a basically, if you've ever watched SpongeBob,
Sure.
picture Sandy's dome there, but a big one, and it has a giant garden inside, and it also has spaces for people to live. And so we're helping them to cultivate this project. They were in the beginning stages.
So what is their intention with the dome part?
They, in a similar fashion to the way that, or at least for me, because I've had this awakening where I've sort of connected to my inner truth, they had a similar awakening, obviously not the same, and they also feel that the greatest gift that they could give would be to help others experience their true nature. And so they want to create a spiritual center, this biodome, in which they're able to have people come in and teach classes and just help people connect with themselves, essentially.
Wow.
Our intentions aligned there. They just seem to gravitate together. So so we spent a week or so on that farm on our way to Colorado, and now still in Utah, maybe like 2 hours north. We're in the high desert in Utah, and we arrive on another farm called the Rooted Center. This is in Boulder, Utah, and the guy who's running this, he has a beautiful family. They're really into this again is in like Mormon territory, so we're expecting to have to run into that at some point. Didn't end up happening. This ran a meditation retreat center in Northern California, acres of land, for 20 years. And like this guy, his name is, and he was one of these people where you learn by being around him, by absorbing the way that he interacts with his surroundings and the way that he carries himself. And they were really into Chinese medicine and Kung Fu and Qigong, and many of these other things. And so again, we're putting out this intention. We want to learn how to connect more deeply with ourselves. And here we are, met with an amazing teacher who is able to teach us so much about everything that we want to learn, in addition to the principles of agriculture and connecting with the earth in so many different ways.
So this whole time you're with your partner, right?
Yeah.
And your intention, if I heard it correctly, was to connect more deeply with your spiritual self.
Yeah, essentially.
And having that intention has brought you not only tons of experiences, but attracting people who are also on that same path in different ways, because it's always different for everybody.
Right.
But now you're I'm very blown away by your story, man. Because it shows what's possible when you set that kind of intention. Because here's the thing. It might be different today, but most people, 99% of all humanity is not going to set intentions around spirituality, right? They're going to set intentions for material goods, for having a family, for happiness even. But for being enlightened or, having an awakening, not a lot of people are going to set that intention. You know what I'm saying? So to see people who are is always fascinating to me. And you're out there literally following whatever the path is unfolding beneath you, right, in front of you.
A lot of times the next step or destination that I would take would be a word of mouth that somebody had given me the day before. Like, I'm really following what's happening, flowing with it,
Yeah.
So, yeah, after there's more demonstrations along the road too. After leaving Utah, we stop in Sedona, Arizona, which to anybody who is into connecting with themselves on a spiritual level, amazing place to go. It's completely, there's so many aspects to it. The land itself physically is located on a couple of meridian lines in the earth.
Okay.
So anybody who's not so familiar with that, to draw a parallel between acupuncture and the way Earth has energetic lines, the way that acupuncture works is you put these needles in places where your body has energetic lines or energetic focal points.
Mhm.
And so the human body has these energetic focal points, and so does the earth. And so in the area of Sedona, there are a couple of different ones that merge together, and they call these the vortexes. Um, and they are places where you can go, and there's a palpable, if you're sensitive to energy, even a little bit, you can feel what's going on there. Um, like even the physically manifested form of this energy is there are juniper trees growing in spirals, because there is a twisting vortex energy coming out of the rocks, from the earth. And
Whoa.
they have many different benefits. There's, I think, 5 or 6 different ones located within the like immediate vicinity of the city of Sedona. And some are different, like better and more beneficial for different things. So some you would go to release emotions. Others you would go to feel more creativity. I went to 2 of them in my week there, and it was such a palpable, like we did some meditations on there as well. And it's such a palpable, like twisting feeling of just like, it's just, it's amazing. So it's like, if you're looking for an experience to prove to you that there is something other than the table in front of you that you can touch, if there's something underneath that, like metaphysically, like this is a great place to awaken that via experience.
Right. So to realize that we're all energy, and this
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
physical matter is kind
Like
of an illusion, right?
all stores even in Sedona are the Flower of Life store, like Unity and Resonance. Like it's amazing. Everybody is so open minded. Yeah, so great place to go there. And then we travel up. We decide to make. So basically, we were listening to this podcast. Matt Belair. He's on iTunes. Great dude. Love him.
Matt
And
Belair. Oh, good.
yeah, and we hear one episode of this guy named Brian Besco, and he owns this company called Twisted Sage Studios, and they make tools out of copper.
Okay.
And I don't know if anybody's familiar with copper tools, but they there's many different elements that go into making the tools, and they are they're created etherically, meaning that they are the templates for how they are created are sort of, as we were talking earlier, channeled in. And they are also derived from different measurements taken from the Great Pyramid of Giza, and different other things like this, like the sacred measurements of Phi and other things like this. I think I have a couple of them here. So this is what they look like.
Okay.
And so copper itself as a medium is a conductor of electricity. There's
Sure.
copper all through your house. And so the same way that it can conduct electricity is energy. And as probably a lot of these listeners understand, we are all connected. And so
Sure.
you're able to interweave intention into these things. And they create a toroidal vortex around them. So this one is emanating energy out here and out here. And then many different benefits, a huge list. You can use them for physical ailments by seriously just putting them on your body because they always radiate the energy. And it's not so much about the physical tool itself. It's about the energy that's connected with it.
So there's Jesus, man. There's so much. So this guy that you went and met, he creates these. Is it when you're creating this? Do you have an intention of what you're creating it for?
Yeah, absolutely. I won't be able to do him justice about all of the
That's okay. That's okay.
like powers that these tools have. Nonetheless, I personally have derived definitely a benefit from them. And so we showed up to his house, basically. We had heard him on a podcast. We reached out to him via email, and we showed up to his front door. And he runs this Twisted Sage studio out of a shop that's in basically his backyard. And we ended up doing an apprenticeship for a week, basically, where he taught us how to make things, and we experienced the energy. And probably the most notable thing there is he has this thing called the ascension chamber. And it's basically giant tensor rings in shapes of sacred geometry. So again, these templates of the way that these tools are organized are created empirically in that they are derived from sacred measurements from the pyramids. Like, for example, this Etica here is it vibrates with the natural harmony in the state of the molecular structure of water. And so it's cut to a sacred cubit length, which is used to build the Great Pyramid of Giza, which is 20.6 inches. And that is part of what anchors that energy physically manifest in this form.
Whoa.
And so, yeah, so they have this ascension chamber, and it's basically this massage table surrounded with like the flower of life created out of tensor rings, and also these giant tensor rings. They have wands as well, which absolutely seem preposterous, but like they're anchored in with these sacred measurements and are doing energetic work. And the intention of all of these tools is to release that which no longer serves you and allow in what is for your highest and greatest good. And so this ascension chamber, he brings it to like Contact in the Desert. He brings it to Burning Man and things like that. It is like this experience, like a 15-minute experience where he has you put on headphones with a very intentional meditation that he's created. Play in the ascension chamber. And so you're surrounded by all of these copper tools, and these tools are holding the energetic space for like a very powerful for you to go along with this meditation and release that which no longer serves you.
Now, when you say that which no longer serves you, are you talking about energy that you're holding in your body, or belief systems that you're holding in your mind, or both?
Yeah, all of the above.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like physical, like stagnations of energy, as well as, beliefs or something like that. Which, you know, to somebody who has a lot of sort of density in that way, after like experiencing something like this, it can feel like your life would just totally collapse. But inevitably, it would be for a better purpose, you know?
Of course. No, I mean, it's funny that you say those words for your highest and best good, because I was just literally I'm a part of the Law of Attraction book club, right? And we were reading Get What You Want by Tom Burrows, and he talks a lot about setting intention for the highest and best good of the universe, right? So if something doesn't manifest, it's because it's not for the highest and best good of the universe, or it always puts things in perspective when you're trying to create something, that it has to be in tune with the highest and best good. Mm-hmm. Not just because we don't want to create things that are bad, so to speak, but also there's more power. That's how, in my opinion, that's how you harness the power of the universe, because it's always trying to make the highest and best good, right?
Yeah, I would resonate with that, in that if you have a more specific intention, like in this case for the highest and best good of whatever is involved, that specificity is going to yield a higher likely or higher probability to modify the future probability of what is going to happen. And like in that way, I think that's what would make the law of attraction more powerful, having that specific intention.
Yes, it's almost like we could manifest anything. And I love the line from Jim Carrey, who said, I wish everybody was rich and famous so they could realize that's not it. So we can manifest riches, we can manifest fame, we can manifest anything. But to realize that we are a part of the universe, it's all coming through us, to be on that, like your journey or anyone's journey, where it's coming out of you and you're directed to flow with the universe in whatever in its evolution. Because I mean, you tell me, with whatever you've seen, with everything you've seen, I should say, I mean, I feel like more and more people are waking up to this type of thing. I don't feel like it's just a hippie type of movement like it used to be. I feel like more and more people are going, yeah, I don't think I identify too much more with the rat race of what I've been told anymore, and that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that you could paint this picture of sort of this metaphorical dam on the river of creation, right? And so this dam are the powers that be. It's as sort of a tangential side note. I think it might be easy to get. I know I have personally caught up in like, oh my god, like, are all these are these people really trying to manipulate everybody in all these ways?
Right. Easy to focus on that.
Right. Ultimately, discovering that truth. What does that mean? How? I think the best way to go about approaching, like, seeking that type of knowledge is, okay, what can I learn from this to ultimately result in me raising my vibration and radiating, like, me being a better person, essentially. How is this going to make me a better person? Because that's what ultimately matters. And so this sort of dam on the river of creation here from the powers that be, I think that this dam is sort of like there's cracks forming in the dam with the technologies these days, namely the internet. Everybody has a voice now. The cracks in the dam used to be like, you get somebody that is Martin Luther King, somebody like this, and like somebody had punched a hole in the dam and there's some water spurting out. Now, like people like you and I who have this good intention have a voice to share with everybody. And these are many different holes in the dam, and inevitably I think it's going to break in that way, or at least, there's more water flowing through now. And that water, I think, is analogous to love and to an understanding of who we are. And I think this relates to, or you could say it is the same thing as a mass awakening. People are rediscovering who they are. They're like, hang on a second, this life that has been described to me of working 40 hours a week, looking forward to the weekend, asked to suppress any feeling that I have within myself that I sort of feel that I should be listening to so that I can comply and make money and be more productive.
Right.
Not necessarily what it's about. And I think, yes, like you're saying, I think a lot of people are sort of waking up to that and realizing that.
Yeah, no, I love what you said about the 40-hour work week, right? Where we only have a part of our life to look forward to. And I heard I was just listening to Alan Watts last night talking about retirement. It's the same carrot on the string, right? Where one day we're going to be financially free and can be able to let go of our shackles, except we're going to be old and gray and, impotent. So I think a lot more people are being like, hey, maybe money isn't as important as we thought it was. But when so many people are broke and all they can think about is money, it keeps them focused on grinding away and, feeding their family and so on and so forth. But and not necessarily that everybody has to jump and do what you did, but I think if we can more align with our passions, and like you said, maybe it's using the internet, maybe it's, for us, it's talking and writing and going and being with nature. But I think more and more people are starting to be like, hey, this makes me feel good and this doesn't. So I'm going to go lean more toward what makes me feel good, and how can I incorporate that feeling good with what I'm doing on a daily basis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I like to, regardless of everybody's situation, like everybody's path to an ultimate liberation is going to be different.
Right.
But one sort of pragmatic or exercise action that I have been trying to implement, and I think would be a great one for everybody else to, is simply 3 acts of kindness a day. There are scientists out there who can measure your energetic capacity, your spiritual capacity, and when you do, aside from the feeling that you get, which is amazing, you measure energetic capacity for your body to hold to an energy of gratitude, and this is contributed to when you're doing an act of kindness, when you're acting on a selfless intention. And so an act of kindness for me is as simple as asking the name of the cashier when you buy your groceries, or holding the door for somebody,
Making
anything.
someone smile, that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And we also have to take into consideration the ripple effect of something like that, you know, that somebody may change their mood, and instead of going to like just be angry at their kids and their wife or something, come back to it with a different face on, you know. And even the implications can be even grander than that too. But I tried to hold myself to 3 a day, and it seems to really fill me with not only a greater appreciation of life, a bigger sense of gratitude within myself for being here, but also just overall work throughout the day. I feel like where can I do the next nice thing? You know, like it's a great thing to look forward to. And if we're all doing something like that, I think that's really powerful.
That is very powerful. I mean, I was having this conversation with my ace, my partner in crime, Carly, and she was talking about, even just getting into an Uber or a cab, or when you have those normal interactions where it says, "Hey, how are you? I'm fine," blah blah blah, where it's something to kind of cheer them up, even if they don't need it. So it's, maybe it's something like, "What are you grateful for today?" instead of "How are you?" or, "What's your high and low for the day?" Something that puts them in a state where they're kind of focused on what's good about life, and even just for a second can change their vibration, right? So I love that. 3 acts of kindness today. I'm going to start with one, and and then go from there. Keep it easy.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and so from South Dakota, Brian Besco, when I was making these copper tools, I've then driven down to Golden, Colorado, where I am now.
Okay.
And seemingly the physical manifestation of this intention just keeps getting greater. I've since sort of moved to, I'm not living in the little home anymore. I have a room behind me.
Okay.
And so, yeah, in the way that this woofing works is each place is different. They'll have different places for you to stay. For me, I was staying in my camper the whole time. And so this one in particular is I have access to, like, it's probably like a 2,000 square foot house, basically to myself. And there's a hot tub on the roof, and like I get to walk out into the garden every day. Just like an increasing, it's just like the universe is rewarding, you know. It's sort of, it's giving me sort of what I'm putting out, so to speak.
So wait, where's the camper now? It's just, this is a temporary living space. So that's still there, right? You're still using it.
Yeah. It's I'm just like keeping my bikes and stuff in there now. It's like
Gotcha.
right next to the house. Yeah.
So how I feel like you have such an amazing story. So the people that have welcomed you in are also themselves on a spiritual kind of mission. Mission's a strong word, but spiritual intention. Is that right?
For a greater part of the journey, absolutely. Right. Yeah. Right now, I'm in this village called Harmony Village, and
Harmony Village.
it's just that. The birds are singing every day. Everybody's really happy. I'd say some more than others are on a spiritual journey in that way. But the biggest element for me here is this close coordination and relationship and symbiosis that I'm developing with the cultivation of the earth, which is gardening. And I never would have thought of it as sort of like a therapeutic modality or something that you could receive healing from. But on so many levels, it is something I'm deep down the rabbit hole of right now, and like completely exploring.
So real quick, I feel like I need to play devil's advocate, and when I'm inspired, I have to. So how many of these Harmony villages or places that you've gone to have tried to indoctrinate you into some new thing, have been kind of cultish?
Yeah, I'll be 1 out of 6. It was
1 out of 6. Hey, okay. So good to know.
Yeah, it was that 1 out of 6. It was really interesting to see the parallels between the way that you can sort of observe our society going on today and sort of the tyrannical hierarchy that was going on in that little community. They're sort of like blindly led and manipulated by this one leader. Yeah.
It wasn't in Texas, was it?
No.
No, I'm sorry. So how long from start to finish, from tiny, throwing everything in the tiny house and meeting your, going to Santa Cruz to now, how long is that in time, in progression?
I think it's been like a year and a month, just about.
Wow.
A lot has happened.
Yeah, a lot has happened. So,
Um, yeah. In Also in that time too, I had a trip to Africa as well. I had a chance to visit my brother who was doing a study abroad down there.
okay.
And so I had a number of powerful experiences there. I could narrow it down to 3 or 4. One being, I think it's one thing to see something on TV where somebody's carrying something on their head and
Sure.
they're digging through trash or something like that. And it was another thing for me to see that in person. And the translation, or what the result has been for me from seeing that, experiencing that, is like a greater and more omnipresent sense of gratitude for us living over here. Anybody in the United States, well, almost anybody, has it so well off. Oh my gosh, so well off. So that is harbor within your heart, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
There's like there's the quality of living, like even the tap water, you have to filter it because there's bacteria.
Of course.
Like stuff like that.
I actually lived in India for 7 months, so I came back with a huge sense of gratitude. I've heard Africa's way worse, but still, yeah.
Yeah. Something that's also coming up for me now. Well, I would also draw a parallel to like that experience as also like a psychedelic experience as well. You go on a journey, there is a message for you, and when you return, you have that message, but it's up to you to integrate that message and demonstrate and like put it into your being and like act on what you've learned there. Yeah, just tangentially. I also, continuing with the intention, I'm not sure if you're familiar, or maybe the viewers are familiar with the Ubuntu movement. It's sort of this political movement that has the interest of the highest and best for everybody. And they're also, the guy who is spearheading this movement, his name is Michael Tellinger, doing some amazing work, shedding some really well-needed light on human origins and the ancient civilizations that were in South Africa.
Really?
Many people have probably heard of the stone circles that exist in South Africa.
Sure.
So he's like the guy who is pioneering the research on that. He has some amazing stuff and science to present to the community or to the world on that stuff. But we were doing a flight to Johannesburg to go to Kruger National Park to see like the elephants and things. On the way back, we stopped at the Ubuntu Village, and there's Michael Tellinger, who I've looked up to for 2 years or so, and he's just sitting there eating lunch, and I'm just like, I'd never been like starstruck in my life before, but there he was. But to me, again, it's just another sign that I'm meeting these people who are aligned with the same intention. There's a gravity there's some force that is pulling these things together. Even another one is where I'm at now. The foundation Gaia, that has like Gaia TV with David Wilcock, Corey Good, and all of them. It's 30 minutes from me, the headquarters where they record.
Really?
And I was actually working with another farmer who's about 30 minutes away from me here, like right next to Gaia, the center, and he routinely will interact with David Wilcock when he's there and all these other people, and he knows them.
Wow.
It's just mind-blowing to me.
So, man, I feel like maybe you can enlighten me. Is there a community? I know you said that there's been a lot of word of mouth, right? And that feels, I've been down that journey myself where it feels like someone was supposed to say that, and so you kind of follow that. But is there a community online, obviously off of Steemit, that has connected all these beautiful people that are awakening and doing good that I might not know? I mean, Woof is a great way to start, but what else is there?
Yeah, I think I'm aware of a few. There certainly is a body of people on Steemit who are thinking along these lines
Oh
as
no,
well.
yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, which is awesome. There's the Ubuntu movement has a website, and that is also a great grouping of people who are high vibe and really looking to do that same thing. This guy, Ronnie Teasdale, has created, in coordination with Deepak Chopra, this network called the Human Network, which is another sort of like, if you want to call it like a high vibe sort of network where people can sort of coordinate projects and things. I would say
Cool.
another one would be this one I'm more familiar with than the Human Network is Earth Journeys Collective.
Earth Journeys Collective.
This one is based out of somewhere, I think it's in the San Diego area, and it is basically, if you want to call them, these like awakened people who are looking to do good. And they have a network of a couple thousand people over there, and they're really action oriented, and they're really doing some good work over there too.
Wow, awesome, man. San Diego is my, like, if there was one place I could live for sure, that's where I would be. Live
Yeah.
there for a while, and yeah, I miss it dearly. But so now you're in Golden, you're working with the Earth, and there's two things I want to ask real quick. Is where's next? Have you even put your thoughts on where next is yet?
Yes, I've had a couple of thoughts, no action plans. For me, I'm waiting for things to start moving. I've been here for a couple of months. I'm still feeling. My guiding principle is listening to this thing, my heart, and
Right.
so it's pulling me back towards the ocean, I think. And in some capacity, I'm looking at moving on onto a sailboat and living life that way. Sort of like travel
Sweet.
the world for a year or two. I've talked to actually in South Africa. I met a guy who had done the same thing, so he was able to divulge all of his experiences and information to me. I'm really inspired from that. Learned to sail this past summer, and so that could be the next step for me. I think there would definitely be some valuable lessons there. While that's happening, though, I want to be able to continue to create. And I've certainly found in my travels that is much easier and much more grounded when you are grounded in one place. So there's a
Right.
balance there that I personally am still learning. But ultimately, it's for me. Moving forward. It's going to be less of a cognitive or like logical decision and more of a like an intuitive based one. Whatever I feel is right.
Yeah, no, I lived the nomad lifestyle for a very long time, and traveling the world and all over the place, and there is something to be said for stability and having a place where you can know you don't have to think as much about the routine. You know where things are, blah blah. That frees your faculties up to then create something bigger. For me, in my opinion. But the other question I wanted to pose is, tell me a little bit more about your relationship with your. I mean, I hate to say girlfriend, partner, whatever, because
Yeah.
she's been with you this whole time. What does she get out of it? Do you guys balance each other? I'm so fascinated by this.
Yeah. Wow. It was an awakening in itself to be involved in a relationship. Um, I would say that I was sort of on this wave that I wasn't aware of that I was on, in that I thought I was making all of this progress, like with my state of being, with my higher resonance of happiness and love. And having the dynamic of sharing a relationship. For us, a relationship is a shared product of evolution. We are constantly sort of trying to, well, we don't try to, but inevitably you get sort of triggered, like emotionally charged by something somebody else does. And it is I've found, we have found that is a great practice of unconditional love to move past anything that has sort of triggered you in that way and ultimately return to a space of gratitude and coherence, and don't project any of your emotions onto one another. Stay neutral. And it is like previously having never been, I guess I'd been in relationships, but never so much a conscious one where we're
Right.
working on different things. So like we can see each other's weaknesses, and we're not trying to attack one another. We're trying to help in one another's evolution. And so it's also been powerful to have another one always by my side to share meditations with. Always great to have like two minds are greater than one. There's a greater spiritual charge there. And so holding intentions maybe a little bit stronger, maybe the beacons raised a little bit higher. And we'll also practice Reiki on one another very frequently.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's again something that I learned from my girlfriend, and she had been doing it for a while, and that was another one of those like mind exploding things for me. I had no idea that something like that could exist, but yeah, it's certainly been palpable.
Wow. So I love what you said about a conscious relationship, right? Because to me, that just totally shifted how I normally see a relationship, where like you and I are having a conscious conversation, right? Where I'm listening, you're listening, vice versa. But a conscious relationship, and knowing that you're gonna have triggers happen from past experiences, past relationships, past models of what you know, your parents or whatever you might say. But knowing that going into it, and that you're evolving in ways that you're intending to evolve, that is super powerful, man. I can't imagine, but I would love to think that it's like doing it twice, right? So you get to see, you have this experience and you get to see a different perception of that experience to help you understand that experience even more. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it's sort of like you're breaking the potentially unconscious wave that you may be riding, and with a fresh perspective coming in from somebody else who knows you very deeply and knows what your conditioning is and how you are reacting according to that conditioning, it shines the light brighter. And I wouldn't say that it's an easier path by any means than going by yourself, pioneering your own growth into happiness and love. But I think ultimately, yes, there's growing pains, but ultimately I think it can result in a stronger evolution, a more powerful and comprehensive and cohesive evolution.
Wow, man. So much. All right, so let me kind of wrap it all up with this. First of all, again, thank you for being here. But
Thank you for doing what you did.
oh yeah, no worries. So if someone was watching this and said to themselves, you know, Niles, hopefully they're not saying this, but Niles is way out there. I could never see myself get there. It's going to take me forever. But I want to start incorporating some of this now. What would you say, maybe one, two, maybe two things to start with to what was your intention to become more spiritually in tune, become more on the highest and best good for you in the universe? What would maybe one or two modalities, one or two things?
I think the most important thing there, the thing I recognize me the most, is a desire to know more deeply. For me, that was caused by a day in which I was completely scared with where I was in my head. So out of necessity, I needed to derive that motivation and expand. For somebody who, because not everybody's path is the same, so a different, I think essentially that motivation is the most important thing to cultivate, and also to be armed with the perspective that it does not happen instantaneously. Just like you are planting a seed in the earth and waiting for your broccoli to grow, that takes a couple of months. And in the same way, you are going to plant your seed of intention with your hand of motivation, and you need to just, it is very, you don't need to, it's very beneficial to have this perspective that it's not going to happen instantaneously. And I think it's also beneficial to, at least it has been for me, to draw an analogy between our consciousness and a wave in the ocean, in that you can observe a wave in the ocean, and some of the waves are big, some of the waves are little ripples. But ultimately, a wave is water after it's a wave. It's always going to be water anyways. And I think that you could look at our consciousness as the water. There are waves in which you're going to ride motivation, you're going to ride inspiration and grow. And there's also the sort of the trough of the wave as well, in which you are in sort of a contracted state or a stagnant state. But for me, a powerful thing has been to realize that we are the water. Ultimately, we are always are the water. And no matter what, if you're on a peak or on a trough, immersing yourself with the sensation that you are the water, it helps you to move past that and ultimately derive the motivation to keep planting those seeds. Because the more seeds that you plant, the greater chances you have of getting your broccoli, you know? And yeah, I think that is the most important part. For me, it feels wrong to sort of force something. Like, if I'm trying to create something, I'm not, like, if I want to create a video where I'm talking to help talk about different principles so that people can help to awaken to their inner true nature, I'm not going to try to force that. I'm going to wait for my motivation to naturally arise within me.
So that's powerful.
And I think that starts with, again, going back to feeling good so you can do good. So find out what it is find out what your rhythm is, honestly. For me, it's getting in touch with my body, physical exercise. I love being immersed in flow state. For me, that looks like mountain biking, surfing, or skiing. I love all that stuff. And if I can get that in a day, like one activity of those a day somehow, then I am feeling good, and then I am motivated, and then I can do good. So ultimately, everybody has a different recipe, but everybody can grow broccoli.
That's awesome, man. I love that. Joe, I want you to flash feeling good. Wait, got to feel good to do good. Because to me, I had this discussion literally a week ago with Coruscate. We were talking about alignment first and then action, right? Alignment of self and then action. Not to force something means I got to wake up, I got to do this. To wait until you have that inspiration and that passion and let it do everything. It's almost like you don't have to do anything. So, but you also have to set that intention to be in alignment, right? Which is why every morning, I'm there setting intentions, meditating, letting it kind of take over. You know what I mean? And I love that. Mm-hmm. All right, man. Let's do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
I'd love. Go ahead.
I think. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're all right. I was readjusting my seat.
Yeah, sure. You just broke up a little bit. I got confused. I think there could be sort of a, if you want to call it a karmic in there as well, in that once you become conscious of what you're putting in your body and sort of the result of what your day-to-day actions are, what impact you're having on certain things, the inevitability of the feel-good factor begins to flow in, because you are no longer karmically contributing to a deficit or a detriment to the was a lot of people refer to as the noosphere, like the collective consciousness. You may be radiating disharmonious energies such as like anger or fear, or you may be physically contributing to pollution of the planet by consuming a lot of products with palm oil or factory farmed meat that has so many resources going into it. I'd like building blocks. It definitely does start with the foundation too of the simplest things. Returning to the present moment, being aware of the food that you're putting into your body, the water that you're putting into your body, water is this whole nother topic that we could also
Yeah.
do too.
Right.
Yeah, just be aware, and yeah, with the intention of improving yourself, you will see that result.
I love it, man. So great to get to talk to you. I really do want to do it again because I feel like we could keep going and just talking about water, for God's sake. I mean, anyway, I don't want to get into it, but thank you so much for sharing this time with us. And if hey, everybody follow Niles Ackerman. I can't wait to see what kind of more good stuff you put out there. I know it's a lot about connection with the earth, which I really dig, and horticulture and things like that. And tell everybody at the Harmony Project, or that we here at Steemit said hello. And yeah, thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, right on. Thank you so much, Larry. Your love is felt, and I'm sure we'll spread it big and wide.
For sure. All right. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Thanks.